Okay, so here we are again for another episode of Opinions. My name is Change. Since the last time you saw me, I'm still Katlego, prosperator. And this, of course, is Opinions, where we look for people to share opinions that matter, opinions that are worth sharing. This series is the Entrepreneurship series because obviously, having come out of COVID, entrepreneurship is a very big term that's been touted out there. We should all become entrepreneurs. Government should be spending more on encouraging people to become entrepreneurs. But what does it mean? What does it entail? What's the journey? And what's the truth behind the debate of this big word that is entrepreneurship? Today we're joined by, I want to give you her title, but I've been trying to not, purely because there's a whole conversation in that too. Her name is Yasmeen Ali. I've known her for many, many years, I think just shy of 13 years now. And our journey started when we met at Raizcorp, which is Africa's #1 prosperator. And maybe she'll explain what a prosperator is versus an incubator. But she's here to just shed some light on some of these mysteries that come with this entrepreneurial space. Yes, good to see you.
Always good to see you, KJ.
Cool. So let's start at the beginning. What the hell is entrepreneurship? So we've got a wrong understanding.
So, firstly, I don't think that anybody can have a wrong understanding because entrepreneurship is this personal journey. And different people tend to look at it, see it, and experience it in a different way. So, what I would say is that is first and foremost what entrepreneurship is. It's a journey. Now, is an entrepreneur anybody that owns a business? My opinion is no, because there are people who own businesses and are self-employed rather than entrepreneurs.
We just put a pin on that because we have to come back and break that down because I know a long list. I have one right now. There's a lot of places where business is self-sustaining, but I don't want to precede what you're saying.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. You know, a lot of people start the side hustle, they start the business because they need the financial stability. Right? It's a necessity, especially with COVID. You know, people were forced into this. What can I do?
Yeah,
hustle, make it happen. You know, anything. You know, sort of space. But entrepreneurship is a little more than that. Entrepreneurship is when basically you decide that this is what you're going to do. Because for a lot of people, you know, where the business starts as a side hustle or as a necessity, if they have the opportunity to go back into formal employment, great, just like that.
Yeah.
But the business isn't a passion, the business is a means to an end. So entrepreneurs first and foremost have that passion for their business, for what they want to put out there in the world. So that's the first characteristic of being an entrepreneur.
Can I clarify that or find clarity for myself in that bit? Is it passion in the space in which the business plays, or is it a passion for business building as a whole, or is it both? Does it matter?
For different people tend to find it in different ways.
Yeah.
You know, for some people, you know, their ultimate sort of life's desire is to build a business that can be sold. You know, they want to build this perfect thing that they can offer to someone else. There you go. I built this, and I started with nothing, and now you're going to pay me millions and millions of rands. You know, and I can always say I built this.
Yeah.
So that is a certain passion for business in a certain way, and then with other people, it is the passion for the work that they do. You know, they want to make the best furniture. You know, they want to give people something different. You know, within their industry, they want to create something special. So, or they want to solve a particular problem for a client. You know, and they have such passion for this particular problem that they want to solve. So it doesn't really matter what the background to the passion is, but it needs to be beyond just the money in the bank. That's sort of the point.
You say that, and immediately my mind goes, no, don't say anything about the money. I want the money. Right? And I'm sure some people might be watching and listening to this. It's like, but I mean, if you're doing business for money, so you're not saying necessarily that money shouldn't be a part of that, right?
Money must be a part.
Because I mean, what is sustainable without money? Just to clarify.
You are the big thing pre-COVID, the social entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
If you are a social entrepreneur, I can't stress this enough. You still have to be profit-driven. Because if you aren't making profit, you are not in charge of what is happening in your business. If you are relying on other people to do the stuff that you're passionate about, they are going to have a hand in and they're going to have a say.
And they have a right.
Exactly, because it's their
Right?
So even if you're a a social entrepreneur, the point has to be what value am I offering to a market that they are willing to pay for.
Yeah.
And that way, all this money that's in your bank account, you can do whatever you want, and therefore your social interest, your passion, your this is how I'm saving the world gets to be fulfilled.
It's almost like what you're saying to me is profit or income. Let's keep it a profit. Profit equals impact. So your ability to impact, whether it be socially or commercially, has largely to do with how much money you're able to generate, revenue you're able to generate. Because that gives you the freedom to make the decisions that you need to make, to move where you need to build the way you need to build, etc.
And it gives you the right.
The right. Okay.
And exactly, you work for it. You've created through serving your customer, very happy, they're willing to pay you. The money is in your bank account, you can do with it whatever you like. Versus when you're scrounging around and when you're begging for funding, it always comes with terms and conditions. So you always want to make sure that the impact that you create, and impact is the word. Something that isn't creating impact is not the term. So if you're going to impact the world in a certain way, you need to be able to do that in a way that is in line with your vision. And it's only in line with your vision if you are in control.
Let's go to Genesis, the genesis of an entrepreneur, because you were giving us one of the traits that would define an entrepreneur. What would follow that? So if that was number one, what would be number two?
People are going to love this one. And I'm sorry to put this close to the top, but resilience. No journey of any entrepreneur is ever been smooth.
Please, let them know.
I sort of feel it. Amen.
She insert those sounds in the chest. The organ, yeah.
If you are an entrepreneur who hasn't had to pick themselves up from some situation or other, you're not an entrepreneur. If you haven't experienced the no's that you felt like right in your guts, you probably aren't an entrepreneur.
So it feels like they're not just rejecting your proposal, your business plan, they're rejecting you and your dream.
They're not rejecting your product, they're rejecting you. And that's one of the really important things for entrepreneurs to learn in their journey. How to separate yourself from your product. Because inevitably, when we start our business, everything is so personal. This may as well be our child. You have to see it, you love it, you nurture it, you change it, you feed it, you give all of your energy to it. This is a child of yours that you nurture. So when somebody comes to you and says something mean about your child, as a parent, even if you know it's true, you're still going to get up there and
someone's going to get it.
Right? You'll go and you'll deal with the child in private later, but you are going to absolutely make sure that this person understands nobody talks about your child like that, right? In the same way, when somebody talks about your product, about your business in a way that you don't like, oftentimes we have the same emotional reaction rather than being able to see it as pure feedback. And that's an option.
When you say that, obviously I'm reflecting on my own journey, and particularly right now because the business I'm building now is so closely related to, one, my identity, two, it literally carries my name. So I have that great anxiety. Firstly, starting it took forever. Yeah. Because
I know.
It's like, how do I introduce this to the world? I'm going to get rejected. They won't reject the business. They're going to reject me, right?
But here's the thing. There are 7.5 billion people on the planet.
Yeah.
What are the chances that somebody isn't going to reject?
Yeah. You don't business to be like that.
So the 10 people that are actively rejecting you, telling you, I don't want this. At least they're the ones that are giving you feedback.
Yes.
They're the ones that you have to.
I guess you choose to seek as critical feedback. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. They're the ones that you have to be courageous about having these conversations with, and they're the ones that you have to show the highest degrees of resilience. Because they're the ones that you have to go back to. Why did you? Not only do you have to, but what about it?
Specifically.
Isn't challenging for you? What about my product? isn't quite fulfilling that need that you have. And the people that are rejecting your product, believe it or not, are the places that you're going to get the most feedback and the best feedback. It's not that everybody's telling you how much they love it, but nobody's buying it.
Yeah.
Find the person that is telling you,
Like
I
that.
don't like it.
That needs to be said again slowly. It's no good having people telling you that they love it, but nobody's buying. Because the ego would feed into that. Like,
Exactly.
because you also want to lick your wounds and be like, oh, I'm so amazing. At least I know we're good. Because what that does is, in the event the business model doesn't work or there is immediate business failure, you are able to justify it to yourself today to say everything was perfect on our end. It's just maybe it wasn't the right time. Yeah, it's them. It's them. You can blame somebody else.
It's we're ahead of our time. That's one that I love sharing.
Yeah.
Another one that I
Living in the wrong business for the wrong time.
My personal favorite, you know what? Our quality is just too high for the market to afford right now.
Okay.
And
So you're selling something that the market doesn't want.
Pretty much. That's a piece of feedback that you're not willing to hear.
Yeah.
You know, and if you went back to that client that rejected you and said to them, let's take price out of the equation, because that's the easy out for most people, right? Take price out of the equation and take the fact that I'm a small business out of the equation. What is it that got you to a no about that product? What is it that you don't trust about my product, about my business, about me? And they are going to, if they don't have trust to fall back on, they actually have to give you honest feedback.
A constructive piece of feedback.
That gives you the ability, if you so choose, because feedback is just information. You can either take it or not take it. So you can take that and you can put it back into your business, so that the next time that you either encounter them, or the next time that you encounter a similar client, you can go and you can change it up so that you've got a better chance.
Okay. So number 2, resilience. Number 3.
Can I just say one more thing about resilience? Resilience doesn't mean that with every no, you just kind of brush it. Resilience.
You keep going blind.
Yes. But that's not resilience, that's stupidity.
I used to be very stupid. I was like,
we all are. And again, I'm going to go back to the parents. Everybody avoids the skid, but the parent refuses to see the skid as a bully. Right? Because my experience of the skid is completely different.
Yeah, they hate us.
They're just chips. So it's not about just continuing blindly with the same thing. Resilience is about accepting the negative feedback, getting up, saying, how can I go forward? And then going and strategizing, changing, and moving forward. Okay, so it's not just about getting up, it's about what do you do about being knocked out.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. It's not running blindly to a hail of bullets and just saying, oh, it won't kill me, it won't kill me. It's acknowledging that there's a hail of bullets coming your way. You might want to duck. You might want to have some armor. You might want to.
If you put your head out around the building,
you won't die. I like that. That's very important. Because I think also coming from a motivational world, there is the perception that resilience is just that. Just keep going despite what feedback you're getting. It's keep going with the feedback, and I think that's such a quality clarification. I think very, very important. Okay, so number 3, if resilience is number 2.
Okay, so number 3, I'm going to talk about an internal locus of control. Big words.
Come on, Gary.
Internal locus of control is psychological, right? And it quite simply means how much do you believe that you're in charge of your own destiny? And that's it.
And we're not talking how much do you think, how much do you believe. So that's a big distinction, right?
Right. Okay. Essentially, people with a low internal locus of control are victims. Okay. Everything out there is to blame for everything that's wrong in their life. It's business didn't succeed because the customers didn't understand the product. It's not I didn't explain the product clearly. It's they didn't understand it. Right? it's the economy's fault. Forget the fact that there are millions of businesses that are thriving in the same economy. It's the economy's fault. And it's not saying that all of these external factors don't play a part. It's quite simply acknowledging that you have the ability to respond to all of these external factors differently. So you can choose to blame the outside world, or you can yet again start within your own skills and own power and go, okay, this is the situation it is, what can I do? What do I choose to do? And you know what, here's where locus of control and resilience meet each other. If you choose to stay in bed and cry for the day, that's okay. But acknowledge that you're choosing to do that today, and if that's what you need for your own self-welfare, okay. But then tomorrow you have to go and get work.
So when you speak about locus of control, is it in any way related to internal versus external validation? Are the two similar or?
So
maybe clarify in terms of one specific question. You know, a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think we see that are playing out a lot in the South African market, right? Largely by virtue of a lack of education, I think at some level, and two, just exposure. People who start businesses, let me say business people, right? Not necessarily entrepreneurs, who come to money, into money. You start to see the belief systems manifest in how they manage that money. So as opposed to building the business and reinvesting and really scaling something that is self-sustaining, et cetera, my personal lifestyle starts to look very, very different.
Yeah.
And I suspect that has to do with the need to be validated by the external, right? So a part of me also wonders if that in itself is sort of the external locus of control.
I've never thought of it, but just sort of, you know, thinking about it now with the you know, the specific example that you used, I think that somebody like that is actually a victim. Somebody like that is a victim of, you know, societal norms and beliefs and all of those things. So I would say, yeah. You know, and I'm not psychologist, so I have to validate that from a theoretical perspective. But my reasoning would be, if you're doing it for somebody else, if you're doing it whether it's to blame somebody else or whether it's to please somebody else, it's all external to yourself. So therefore, it would be something that needs to be control.
Okay. No.
That's again, that's just my reasoning.
Sure, no, completely. So number 4 is external locus of control, or something that rips out in the office somewhere. That was number 3. Number 4 would be.
So number 4, the ability to take, and I cannot stress the next word, calculated risks. Not stupid risks. Calculated risks. And
is there a formula to calculating risk? Or
well, you know, actuaries and there's people much smarter than me that have all of these formulas to calculate risk. But here's the thing. The example that I always use with my entrepreneurs is that of a tightrope walker. When we see a tightrope walker in service web, right, and they're walking that rope, all of us kind of go, because we see it as a massive risk.
As a high risk exercise, sure.
When they take that net off, that safety net off, it's like even more, oh my goodness, when there's some people that can't watch this, let alone imagine themselves doing that. Yet, if that tightrope walker is 18 years old, they've been doing this for 16 years of their lives. They've been doing this every single day in some way or other. They've been trained to do this. They understand exactly what's needed. They could do it blindfolded and in their sleep. So for you and I, it might be a massive risk, but for them, the risk is minuscule. It doesn't mean that things aren't going to go wrong. It doesn't mean that there's never an accident, but it means that the risk is much lower for them. So
it's not a perceived risk, it's the true risk.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there are a bunch of things that would influence whether something is a risk for you as opposed to other people. So Richard Branson is seen as this person who as this entrepreneur who takes massive risks. Right? But he actually will talk about the fact that For him, it's not, he doesn't see it as that big a risk because of the people that he surrounds himself with, the expertise that he makes sure he has within the business, to mitigate those risks. The amount of, for example, capital, that he can invest in things like marketing and all of the background activities. The research that he has done before he invests in anything, and all of those things lower the risk. So that you and I were looking at this as a massive risk, but he's kind of done so much work around it that to him, there's a risk.
He has diminished that risk. So he's managing the risk.
Exactly. It's about managing the risk, mitigating the risk. Yeah, you still need to have the courage to do things that other people aren't willing to do. Because if you want results that other people aren't getting, you need to be willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not about being stupid, being irresponsible.
I think that also comes from this romanticized idea of entrepreneurship, which is that we find the nearest cliff and we jump. And it's like, no, I check if there's something down there first. I then also ask other paramedics around, like, before I jump. All you're seeing is the jump. You're like, wow, what a jump. You don't know that I'm just kidding.
If people hear the story after the fact,
yeah,
they hear about the risks taken after the fact, after the success. And that's where this romanticized version comes from. And very rarely does the publisher want the part where the entrepreneur talks about how they mitigated the risk. That's not fun.
It's not exciting.
That's what you have.
That's like getting an action movie and then the star of the hero in the action movie is like, no, but before I jumped out, I started shooting at everybody. I made sure, and then I had enough bullets. I made sure I knew the angles they were at. I can't get it.
I read the entire health and safety act.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure I had my mask, I had my PPE. No, that's like,
before I ran through the wall, I first, I
checked the wall.
checked the details, trying to cover it. That's not entertainment. People are going to buy that.
I know you want to share one more, entrepreneurial trait or characteristic of an entrepreneur. Once you're done sharing that, I want us to move to something that I think is very important in the context of what we're trying to do as South Africans generally in this entrepreneurial space, which is that we're trying to build sustainable business.
Yeah.
And a big component of that has always been the process of putting processes in place and the importance of it, and how that allows us to scale business. Because too often we find one-man bands that stay one-man bands for too long, right? Or great potentials at a great time, but because we don't know how to put the pieces together, we then just fall apart. Okay.
So, believe it or not, the last characteristic is actually related to that. Okay. And it's not going to sound like it when I start talking about it. And it's action orientation. It's the ability to do. Like, entrepreneurs don't know anything. It is the fact that they do. Right? They don't wait around, they get up and they do stuff. And that's a great characteristic to have. That's great. It's a great thing that you are busy making sure that the customer is happy, that the products are produced until 3 o'clock in the morning. It's wonderful, right? But you also, as an entrepreneur, have to take a step back and go, am I taking the right action? Because it's not just about being busy. It's about what am I busy doing? Am I busy just surviving? In other words, am I busy just in the protection cycle? Or am I busy building my business?
I want you to pause so that can sink in. Because it's so easy to get caught up in the surviving and the busyness of business.
Yeah.
Right? But like, am I doing the things that will eventually move me out of what could potentially become a prison?
Yeah.
This passion of mine could imprison me because I'm working all the time, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm servicing clients who are now my bosses,
Or even worse,
yeah.
Because I got this one contract.
And you have zero capacity to
and the only way that I can deliver on this contract is because I am on my own, working until 3 o'clock every day. To keep this client happy, because God forbid this client isn't happy.
Yeah.
So I'm caught in this cycle of just delivering for them and keeping them happy, and then they all hurting, and I don't have the ability to actually shift away.
That is the perfect segue. You were right when you started. I don't know where this girl goes. Let's see where she goes with it. But you're all right. It does beautifully bring us to this point of how then do we go about building systems, and that allow for us to be able to be more efficient, but to also, to be honest with you, that free us to do the other parts of the business, right? Where does one start?
So
and it's a very big question.
I'm going to give just a very simple methodology, and obviously this is one of those questions that people have built businesses up. Literally going into businesses and creating systems and processes is a business in itself, right? There are consultants that specialize in business. So it's a very big topic. But the simplicity of it is this. The first thing is you have to know what you're doing. So I know it sounds really simple and silly, but one of the things that I ask my entrepreneurs is keep a little notebook with it and record every task that they do for the entire day for a week. Okay, and in entrepreneurs world, the week is Monday to Friday.
Yeah, it's Monday to Monday.
It's Monday to Monday, right? So every single task that you do for your business, it doesn't matter how small it is, record that task, right? At the end of that week, you then have a list of everything you do, and keep track of how often you do it, right? You'll see what's actually taking up your time. Now, as an entrepreneur, you have to take a step back and be the MD of your company and look at, okay, I am the most important resource in this business. Without me, there is no business. Especially if you're a one-man band. That is absolutely true.
Without a doubt.
So, being the most important resource in this business, which of these tasks is the most important resource not suited to you? So, what is that business rather than the profit-driving activities? What are the important things versus the keeping you away from those important things, right?
And feeling important to yourself because you're busy.
And you know what? That's another thing that we actually need to talk about. How many of these tasks are feeling you? Because if you're the sort of person that is getting this sense of satisfaction, this virtual pat on the back every time your customer says, I love dealing with you. Not that I love dealing with your business. I love dealing with you. And you're saying to yourself, no, I can't hire somebody to do this because the customer wants me. You need to get your ego in check. Because your business is not going to survive if it keeps you driven by your ego, because you only have so much capacity. However, if you are in a business like yours, for example, that is very reliant on your skills, on your personality, on your character, on you, then what are the other tasks that you need to be outsourcing to other people? Right? Let's say, for example, an intern holding their law firm. You can't hire other people to do the lawyering. You need certain qualifications, certain things in place to do that. You can't exactly see the receptionist to go and represent someone in court. There's certain things that you have to hold on to. But the things that you don't have to hold on to, how much of it are you holding on to fully? Right? Once you've separated those tasks, that's when you now need to start sitting down and building those systems and processes. And it doesn't matter if you don't have somebody to outsource it to. Okay, this is the trick. A lot of one-man bands will say to you, I don't have time to do this. Where the irony is, doing this will free up your time. Because as soon as you build that system, it makes it so much easier to give it to somebody else to do. Right? And what I hear a lot is, I did try hiring people and I trained them and I taught them. It was just a waste of time because they don't do it like me. And I hear that.
Ego. I just hear a lot of ego talking.
There's a lot of ego in entrepreneurship. You don't get to say anything else.
Fair enough, yeah. It does take a certain amount of it too.
A healthy ego is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
A healthy ego, a healthy belief in yourself, in your abilities, in the value that your product brings to your customers. A healthy ego is necessary. Where it becomes damaging is when you make it all about yourself and you don't keep it. So practice keep that healthy ego in the back of your head. So we were talking about all the systems, right? When people tell me that they're trying to hire you, that person doesn't do it like them, two questions. Number one, how important is it that they do it like you? Or how important is it more important just that it gets better? Right? And if the answer is it must get done like me because that's what the customer wants, and there are some instances where that's true. How much time did you spend in showing them how you do it? How much time did you spend showing them why you do it in a particular way? And that's the process of a lot of systems that people don't actually spend time on. They don't spend time on the why. Yes. So we have cameras set up at different angles. Right? Why is it set up? It's just about blocking the camera style. It's about getting a certain feel, a certain look, a certain uniformity, and for future shows, etc. Right? Why is it like that? And if you explain to people why something has to be done in a certain way, 99% of the time it's going to work out because they understand the importance of doing a task in a particular way.
In fact, I'm trying to believe that most people would look for an even better way to do the why. And if you're the kind of entrepreneur who's more married to why we're doing it and getting it done, as opposed to it being done the way you want it to, you might see that, all these words like innovation and whatnot, that leaves room for innovation. You're giving the people who are coming into your business the room to innovate, to find better ways to get to the end goal.
One of the things that we at Raizcorp talk about a lot is bulks. Build our business. Okay? Those are all process documents. And the reason that we have these bulks is because as the business started to grow, everybody was doing things in really wonderful ways and achieving the results, but nobody knew how the other person was achieving that result. Right? So it was just like, hey, Ross is doing amazing and learning. And they were going, yay! And then one day somebody came back and, how are you doing amazing?
What's the magic?
What are you doing differently to what I do?
Yeah.
Like, why am I not getting this result? And the truth of the matter was, I didn't know. Right? That wasn't just me, it was absolutely every employee within the business. So, we had to take a very big step back and go, okay, so we're achieving amazing things, but how are we achieving these amazing things? Why is it working when this person does it and not working when this person does it? And, getting down to that granular detail of, for example, I insist on being in my class 15 minutes at a time. I insist on being copied on every one of the emails that goes out to my computers. I insist on being in communication with them and having all of their contact details so that when somebody isn't performing a check up, that's not something that other people got to. And it's not because they were bad facilitators, it just wasn't something that occurred to them.
Sure.
Right? They were doing other amazing things that I learned from. And by starting to just write down these policies within these product documents, now everybody's got access to what makes everybody great. And you can go and you can apply that into this.
I love the fact that you're not simplifying, but you're clarifying this term, that process, because a lot of the time a word like process, putting processes into
it's scary.
It's scary because you feel like I should have a PhD in processing and processes, right?
I know. They didn't teach us that. Okay, just interesting.
No shade. But yeah, so I'm bringing it down to very practical and tactile and tangible ways to do it. Write a list of the things you do on a weekly, right? And then I suspect in between that group them, right? Because certain tasks will go into certain buckets, if you would. And that's when you start to apply, okay, this could be done by one person, this could be done by a software product that's open source online, and et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. This can be so I can buy a software product, for example, so my bookkeeping, and made it damn that simpler, by using certain pay certain, accounting packages.
Yeah.
This can be done by somebody that actually don't have to pay a lot of money per month. So these are simple tasks, office-based tasks, for example. This is specialized, that needs me. And this, I'd love to give other people, these particular tasks, but I can't afford them right now.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's bullet for now, but I have the awareness that I should be getting my business to a place where we can bring a resource, whatever that resource is, to then take that home.
So what you're going to do is those tasks that you can give to other people, be it assistants or be it person, right? You're going to break that task down. Right? And this is what a lot of people get wrong. They think that the task is a delivery of my product, right? Takes time of my time. I need one entrepreneur that literally spent 3 days of his week delivering. Him himself personally, and he did physical products. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, so almost 50% of your time is spent on growing where you're not making any other profits. Yeah. But anyway, let's not go there.
I'm sure there was an answer. But no, yes. Let my clients want to see me bring the product. It just shows them that. Yeah.
No, yes. If I do it myself, typically it costs me 250 rand in petrol, where I'd have to pay somebody, I'd have to pay a career service. Yes, but how much money are you not making?
Making whilst you're saving 250. Hold on. Hold on. Whilst you're busy saving 250 over a 3-day span, how many meetings could you have been in? How many emails could you have sent? How many invoices could you have sent out? How many cost estimates could you have done that are possibly worth a lot more? Oh, oof. Anyway, sure.
As entrepreneurs, we're so stuck in our businesses. Yeah. We're so stuck in the detail that somebody asking that question is literally not something that you have thought about at all. So sometimes I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to have an outside perspective, be it a friend who's honest with you, and not that friend that just tells you how wonderful you are. Somebody that friend that knows what's wrong with you. Or
just not the sentence with, are you stupid, mate?
I prefer friends to start questions, but with why?
I hear you.
So, have that, if you don't have access to a mentor, if you don't have access to advisors, like that, have that friend, that tough friend who asks those questions. Other entrepreneurs are brilliant, for these sorts of questions as well. So if you have an entrepreneur, just, have conversations with them, just about these things, right? But yeah, we're being typical entrepreneurs. We keep distracting ourselves from the systems and processes.
Running away from it.
The important thing about writing the process, right, or writing down how your system works, is go into granular detail. And this is the thing that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, because it becomes so second-nature to us, the things that we do, that we forget that we do it. And I learned this lesson when somebody asked me how I prepare for a session.
Okay. Yeah.
But how? I have my material, I know from my classes, and kind of just put the two together. Okay, but how? Being asked that question, how? Eventually I kind of sat down and realized I actually spent an hour and a half preparing for a 2-hour session. What am I doing in that hour and a half? Always coffee.
Yeah, so it is very important that it's done.
So we start, how do I get the content? How do I know what
are the sources?
Right, if I need advice, or I need some technical support or detail, who do I go to? How do I know to go to that person? In business, it's the same thing. We tend to get so caught up in the doing that we forget about all of the little pieces that we're doing. And then we hire somebody. somebody who, theoretically speaking, is better at this particular task than we are. But because they don't understand the granular detail of what we do and why we do it that way, they can never take over that task. So it takes you 3 months to get somebody up to speed, not because that person isn't capable, but because you haven't written down your system in detail enough for them to be able to just pick up process document, go, okay, cool, and then, like you said earlier, possibly optimize certain pieces as well. You know, like why don't we do that and that together? Because, you know, if we do this in Excel, for example, it will automatically calculate all of that. So can we do that? You know, so if you don't have that granular detail, it's very difficult for somebody else to take over anything from you and do it as well as you.
So, you know, there's so much more we can go into. We can take this conversation so much further, but a part of me is inclined to actually just to bring it back here.
Yeah.
Because I think for the person who's watching it for the first time, or having this conversation with themselves and with us, I guess, for the first time, what we've done is that we've given them an insight into the importance of systemizing and putting processes in place, right? But you've also taken it one step further. You've spoken to the practical way to do it. I suspect that there are people who are going to argue, and this is essentially my last question, that they might not have that personality profile. So a lot of the times, entrepreneurs have the what's the archetype? Yeah, it's not my thing. I'm the ideas guy. Remember there was a time I used to call myself the ideas guy. But like, yeah, I'm going to come up with ideas. Somebody else will do it.
I remember that period. You know,
this is really now. The defects where you stay to No, but seriously, how important is it for the entrepreneur to be the one who builds out and writes out, especially in the early stages of the business, the processes?
It is critical. It is absolutely right. And remember that if you are a one-man band, it's the only way you're going to get out of being a one-man band, because otherwise you're going to get into this cycle of hiring people and then not working out the whole handle. So it's absolutely critical. Here's the thing that I always say to people: if you learn to do this, you don't have to do it in, because then you'll be able to outsource it to people because you'll be able to tell them how to do it. So you have to be. I think that as an entrepreneur, you have to be at least minimally confident at everything. Okay, so you don't have to, for example, be a brilliant bookkeeper.
But you have to understand.
But you have to understand the books. Okay, you have to understand. This is what my cost of sales is made up of. You know, versus my expenses. That you kind of have this something like trying to, if you can try to kind of get them up. Wait a minute. You know. The same thing with your systems and processes. You should be able to write a simple, basic process. The first processes in your business should always be written by you. And then once you have people in place, they own things. You know, so if the most important thing in your business right now is to create a production process, for example, great, go and write the production process well enough that somebody else can take it over from you. And then someday you'll hire a production manager that will take a very simple process and turn it into a thing of absolute wonder.
It's going to be beautiful, spectacular.
But the basis is always going to be that very simple document that you create.
Which sometimes is a one-page.
One page is great. Yeah. Bullet points, if that's who you are. Drawings, if you're not a words person. Awesome. Just as long as you are able to take that, give it to somebody, and that person is able to look at it and go, cool, I know where to start. Actually,
when you're doing that, what you're creating is all documents. So when you give it to a person, the person must be able to go, oh, it's been an absolute joy having you. We're definitely going to have you back. We're going to pick this conversation up. We always wrap with a little game, and it goes as follows. I'm going to give you a word. I'm going to fire a word at you. What you have to give me is the first word that comes to mind.
This might be dangerous.
PG-rated, R-rated. Okay, so your first word is Africa.
Okay.
Hope.
Always.
Entrepreneurship.
Oh boy.
Peace.
Good wishes.
Welfare.
People,
Love.
everybody.
Tomorrow.
Sunday.
Thank you.
And thank you.
I just knew what you were going to say. That was my thank you. There you have it. Yes, an absolute joy to be with. I hope that this conversation has been of value to you. If you are starting out your business or you've been on this business journey and you feel like there's things you could have done better, a large part of it has to do with the fact that you might have not put the process in place to enable you to be the best necessary asset to your business, right? So as we continue growing and building our businesses, I hope that this particular opinion has served you well. Until the next time we see each other, be kind, live, love, learn, and always listen. We out!